0.9. We are multiplying rational numbers. Multiplying fractions. Here's the rule right here. It says that when I have A divided by B times C divided by D, what does it equal? It says that you are going to multiply your numerators, A times C, multiply them, and then multiply your denominators, B times D. That's it. You multiply straight across. But we should look for some reducing, which we'll see as we're going down. If I reduce before I multiply straight across, my numbers will stay smaller. All right, so looking at example 1, the first thing it says to do is rewrite the negative sign in the numerator. So I'm going to take the negative sign and I'm going to put it in the numerator. We have negative 8 divided by 15 times 5 divided by 7. Negative 8/15 times 5/7. There was step 1. Get that negative sign to be in the fraction. Step 2 says simplify before multiplying. And how do we do that? We're looking for the GCF. That would be the greatest common factor. We're looking for the greatest common factor, the GCF. Greatest common factor. You look for the greatest common factor between the numerator and the denominator. I could look for that GCF. What's up? And so I could look between the numerator and denominator right here, 8 and 15. I could look at 5 and 7. But I think Evan sees another place where there's a greatest common factor. Where'd you see it, Evan? Exactly. I can also go numerator to denominator on the diagonal here. So as long as it's numerator to denominator, you can cross cancel. What is the common factor for 5 and 15? What do they both have in common? They have a 5 in common. So I'm going to do 5 divided by 5, which equals 5 divided by 5 is 1. So I'm dividing by 5. And then 15 divided by 5 equals 3. So I only put the dividing sign there so that you could see what it was that we were doing. I'm not going to do that every time. But I am dividing out. So I'm going to make sure I can see that dividing sign really good. The first time, divide 5. Divide 5. And I'm not going to keep doing that. I just did that on the first note so that you could see that you are dividing by that common factor. All right, so I did that. Now I'm just going to multiply straight across. 1 and 3 don't have a common factor. 8 and 7 don't have a common factor. So the next step says that you are just going to multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. Negative 8, so we have, and again, I'm not going to do this every time, but I'm going to show that I'm doing negative 8 times 1 and 3 times 7. I'm just showing it so that I can see the steps. I'm cross-canceling. I'm multiplying my numerators, the negative 8 times 1, and then I just give my final answer, negative 8 times 1 and 3 times 7. Again, I wouldn't show all of those steps in my work. It's just that when I look back to my notes, I want to have an idea of what it is I did. So I want you to be dependent upon your notes. Look at your notes, be able to see what's going on, and still continue with your work. All right, so that's how you multiply fractions. You are looking to rewrite the negative in the numerator, simplify by dividing out the GCF, and then just multiply straight across. That's what you do when you have fractions. But what do we have now? What are we multiplying on example 2? What are these called? These are called mixed numbers. So now we're multiplying mixed numbers. The very first step that it says to do is rename the mixed number as an improper fraction. So that's the first step. Rewrite it as an improper fraction. Let's see if you can do it on your paper. Write it right here, both of these as improper fractions. If you need to look back in your notes to be reminded from yesterday how to change an improper fraction, then look back in your notes. All right, so changing to an improper fraction, if we look back at our notes, it says that we are going to multiply and then add. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15 halves. And we're multiplying to 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8/3. So there's the first step, renaming the mixed numbers as a fraction. So the next step says the same thing, simplify. We're looking for the greatest common factor. Do 2 and 8 have anything in common? What's their common factor? 2. So it's got to be in both the numbers. And so 2 divided by 2 equals 1. So I cross it out and put a 1. 8 divided by 2 equals 4. So I cross it out and put a 4. Okay, look for any other common factors. Try 15 and 3. Try to cross cancel these two right here. What do they have in common? Because that's what I want to divide out. Try it. Ethan, what did you get for a common factor for 15 and 3?
5.
Okay, so what was the common factor that you used to divide out when you got your answers? You divided by what? Divided by 3. They both have a 3 in common. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. All right, I did step 1. I did step 2. Now step 3 says to multiply. So I'm going to multiply straight across. And again, just because these are my notes, I want to make sure I clearly understand that I am multiplying straight across. So I'm just going to put 5 times 4 over 1 times 1. And I'm going to give my final answer. If I was doing my homework, I'd go right to the final answer. But because it's my notes, and I know my teacher's going to make me look at my notes all the time if I don't understand something, 5 times 4 is 20. 1 times 1 is 1. Is that how I leave my final answer, Atwood?
No.
Now, what is the final answer? I want to make sure it's reduced all the way down. And 20 over 1 is just 20. 20 divided by 1 is 20. So I want to make sure that I leave a final answer fully reduced if it's possible.